we are taking all of our operations and merging them with the president's campaign. So instead of having two political operations, we have one. Instead of having two communications shops, we have one. Same thing with digital, same thing with data.
That was the co-chair of the RNC talking about merging operations of the RNC and the Trump campaign as one. I'm sure Donald Trump will love that for the RNC paying his legal bills. You know, the Biden campaign's been absolutely ruthless, as they should, in mocking Donald Trump's inadequacy and his inability to raise funds and actually deploy funds in the campaign. Now, that's not stopping the media from trying to spread Trump propaganda, but let me show you what's going down here. As Simon Rosenberg, a friend of the MeidasTouch network, said, Trump is weak, not strong. Here's a graphic from the Biden-Harris campaign with cash on hand. Biden-Harris, $192 million. You see in the graphic, Trump has $93 million. Let's talk about where the Biden-Harris campaign is deploying this. There's now over 100 battleground state offices open. So over 100 field offices in all of the battleground states. 2 million texts and 385,000 calls to voters, 20,000 volunteers activated. On the other hand, when it comes to Trump, what's he spending his money on? His own legal fees. I don't think he's opened any field offices, like 0 field offices in battleground states. And Trump just continues to post things about himself playing golf and winning fake golf trophies right there. One of the other things that President Biden is doing is mocking this fundraiser that Donald Trump is apparently holding. You'll recall that the Biden-Harris campaign actually raised $25 or $26 million a few weeks back at Radio City in Manhattan at this event that was co-hosted by former President Obama and President Clinton. So what does Donald Trump do? Donald Trump claims that he's hosting this fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago, where he wants to say that I'm going to make 3 times as much money as Biden. And all of the media just like buys that hook, line, and sinker and just kind of pushes this message. But you got to read through it. When it comes to Donald Trump and his financials and the way he deals with numbers, he never tells the truth. Almost never tells the truth. Yet the media likes to just parrot what he says, either because they're lazy or they're aiding and abetting his wannabe fascism. Here's what I love that the Biden-Harris campaign said. They said, tonight, Donald Trump is holding a billionaire fundraiser to pay his mounting legal bills. Here are some of the scammers, racists, and extremists funding Trump's failing campaign. The Biden-Harris campaign ain't playing, folks. They ain't playing around. They are not mincing words right there. So look, on the one hand, you had President Biden actually raise $26 million. Now, here's the headline from NBC, and this is what I mean, how foolish the media can be sometimes. It says, a lot of times, Trump's $50 million gala set to double Biden's triple president fundraiser. And what, they had like 30 people write this article. Catherine Doyle, Matt Dixon, Jonathan Allen, Dasha Burns. You need all these people to write this stupid story. But when you look at the story, it says commitments totaling $50 million. Not that he's raised $50 million. Now look, we'll see at the end of the month what the financials actually show. But there's a difference between the words commitments versus actually raising the money. And then there's the question, where is the money going? Now, the MAGA Republicans want this money going to pay to Donald Trump's legal bills. It's one of the reasons also of kind of merging RNC and Trump campaign and PAC operations. But this is Congressman Vandrew, MAGA Republican here, and he says that he thinks that even the small dollar donors want this money to help Donald Trump's legal bills because he goes, Donald Trump is being persecuted. This, folks, the MAGA Republicans for you. Here, play this clip.
Okay, well, listen, I'm sure the Democratic side will say that a lot of their money comes from the more grassroots, but let's keep going here, because once the federal contribution limit is maxed out, the remainder of money raised will go from Trump tonight will go to the RNC. You've got state political parties and to the Save America PAC, which, as you well know, helps pay Trump's astronomical legal bills. So Trump himself, he's a billionaire. But are you okay with campaign donations going towards his legal bills? Because you just mentioned that he does have those smaller donors who are using their hard-earned money to try to support his political aspirations.
Understood. So you got to realize, I believe the smaller donors, just like the big donors, realize that Donald Trump isn't being prosecuted. He's being persecuted, man. This is unheard of in American political or judicial or legal history. It really is. And so people understand.
Now, is it unheard of because, but let me ask you, sir, is it unheard of because this is the first time you have a former president stepping into the arenas, if you will, that he has stepped into? Maybe that's why it's unprecedented, because we've never had a former president behave this way.
No, it's unprecedented because there's so much at risk. It's unprecedented because, quite frankly, the left is really concerned that he has a real shot here. He's going to win, and they are afraid of that. So they are using every mechanism possible, whether it's ultra prosecutors, attorneys general, and just to go after this man for things.
Oh, and by the way, you have Lara Trump talking about she's still talking about releasing her music. I mean, how pathetic. The other co-chair of the RNC. This is what she's talking about in the interviews. Play this clip.
Reaction.
Yeah, well, Sean, I actually released a song last week that I wrote over the winter prior to taking this position as co-chair of the RNC. And so I guess they say imitation is the highest form of flattery.
And I said it's important to know where the money's going as well. Like, here's Alina Habba, who's received somewhere between $3.5 and $5 million for basically losing mostly all of the cases where she represents Donald Trump, to the tune of, $464 million with post-judgment interest over $500 million, as well as $83.3 million in the E. Jean Carroll case. And then the other one in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. Here she is having, you see all of the custom-made robes she's buying for her friends, partying in St. Bart's with the Dior bags and the Chanel, flaunting the wealth, a lot of it being generated by her legal services, being paid by Donald Trump's political action committee. You know, as President Biden's out there actually opening up field offices and doing the work of campaigning. And here's Alina Habba, probably at a lunch that costs more money than Mr. and Mrs. Magadonia make in a year. Watch her celebrating in St. Bart's. Play this clip. And take a look right here one more time, in terms of the actual raw money. Biden 192, Donald Trump 93. And this is why I like the Biden-Harris campaign pushing back. Now, back to the Post where they talk about who's going to be at this Trump fundraiser on Saturday night. It says, here are the scammers, racist, and extremist funding Trump's failing campaign. Remember, this is commitments. It doesn't mean the money came in the door. Oh, I guess one more point I want to make on that before showing you the people that are listed in this. It's like when Donald Trump claimed that he sold one of his sneakers for a record $450,000 on eBay. But when you actually looked at it, it's not actually sold. Some rando troll, MAGA troll, listed it for $450,000 for resale. No one bought it for that amount. Yet the media went with the narrative. Donald Trump reposted it. It's just part of Ponzi schemer Donald Trump's move. Speaking of which, here are, according to the Biden-Harris campaign, some of the scammers, racist, and extremists funding the campaign. This is what the Biden-Harris campaign wrote. Trump donor John Paulson wants to cut Social Security and opposed financial regulations to protect Americans after the 2008 crash, which he profited off of. Trump donor Robert Bigelow complained he couldn't evict tenants out of his building during the pandemic and supports Florida's Don't Say Gay law, extreme Don't Say Gay law. Trump donor John Castimaidis compared taxes on the wealthy to Hitler-killing Jews, and his business has been forced to pay millions in lawsuits over unfair labor practices and consumer safety violations. Trump donor Jose Pepe Fangel refused to fire his assistant, who was married to two KKK leaders, commenting via a company spokesperson that we wouldn't terminate them for that. Trump donor Jamie McCourt pocketed over $10 million from her stock shares before public citizens were made aware of the pandemic's severity, all while Trump played down the virus. Trump donor and failed GOP Senator Kelly Loeffler touted 2020 election lies, backed an anti-LGBTQ adoption agency, and supported ripping away health care for millions of Americans by repealing the Affordable Care Act. Trump donor Robert Mercer opposes the Civil Rights Act of 1964, calling it a major mistake and believes the government is backwards for helping, quote, weak people get strong. Trump donor Jeff Yass has avoided $1 billion in taxes and wants to privatize Social Security. Trump donor Woody Johnson has repeatedly disparaged women for their looks and questioned why the black community celebrates Black History Month. Trump donor Mike Hodges openly bragged how his donations to Trump helped him fend off regulation so he could screw over working Americans and get rich. Trump donor Steve Wynn was accused by dozens of workers of sexual misconduct. Trump donor Todd Ricketts made his money screwing over retirees by shedding pension obligations and healthcare promises, and opposes the idea that the government can serve to protect the public's well-being. Trump donor and oil baron Harold Hamm attacked scientists, saying that a lot of these things that are green are going to cost us a lot of money. Trump donor Phil Ruffin fought against housekeepers trying to unionize at his Vegas hotels jointly owned with Donald Trump, and furloughed more than 4,000 of his company's employees without pay. Trump donor Wilbur Ross made his fortune laying off American workers and using bankruptcy to strip retirees of health benefits. So those are some of the people who are going to be there at the Trump event. And again, we will have to see at the end of the month the actual money that is raised, but there's a difference between raising money and commitments. And Donald Trump, who we know has all the things fraudulent with his financials. That was one of the main points of the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case. The media, stop buying his stupid numbers and focus on what's actually going down in the field and what's actually happening in real time. Because in real time, you have Donald Trump posting his new version of the national anthem. He's changed the lyrics to the national anthem and calls it the J6 Hostages Anthem, and he makes people pledge allegiance to the J6 hostages. You see right there his post, Donald J. Trump and the J6 prisoners. He's making posts like that. And then on the other hand, you've got President Biden actually getting things done. Simon Rosenberg has summarized a lot of this, I think, very succinctly. And Simon Rosenberg points out the following, that the rate of job growth has been 40 times higher under President Biden than it was under the last three GOP presidents. 40 times. Last month's 303,000 jobs would be 2.5 years of job growth under Republicans in 1 month in the Biden administration. Since 1989, this is just the data. You may not like this data. You may like this. I'm just reading you the data. Since 1989, 51 million jobs have been created in America. 49 million. 96% of those have been created under Democratic presidents. Essentially all of them over 3.5 decades. Simon Rosenberg explains, evaporating the GOP talking points. Economy is now strong, not weak. Inflation is down, not up. The deficit is lower, not higher. Crime is down, not raging. Democrats equal border and order. GOP equals chaos. What did Donald Trump say? He did not want to support a bipartisan border deal negotiated by the most conservative Republican on the issue of immigration, Senator Lankford, Republican from Oklahoma, because Donald Trump wanted to run on chaos at the border. He thinks chaos and problems is a winning issue for him if he and right-wing media could go and blame President Biden for that and say it's the Democrats' fault versus actually doing a deal. Politics, we disagree with people. Sometimes you got to make deals. And Donald Trump said no deal. He wants chaos. He thinks chaos and harm is a winning issue for him. Biden says all of this idea that Biden's corrupt, it's all been proven to be a Russian op. MAGA Republicans quite literally relied on Russian spies. I mean, just think about that. Republican members in Congress used a Russian agent and an agent of the CCP in order to launder disinformation from foreign adversaries, which the Republicans then spread as the main propaganda arm for foreign adversaries. By the way, Biden's strong, successful, and we see that with the job numbers right there. So there you have it, folks. You see the comparison. I want to build this media literacy. I know that's one of the reasons you don't watch legacy media anymore, and why we created this network is I'm done with all this bogus crap. Just give me the facts, give me the data. Let me assess what's really going on here. Now, if at the end of the month we see the amount raised, we'll report that. But I'm not going to report on commitments and things that are being listed for $450,000. It's the same way Donald Trump says, oh, my house is 30,000 square feet. If you include my imaginary whatever, or Donald Trump saying, oh, I guess Mar-a-Lago could be a residential property, even though he signed a deed saying it can never be a residential property. He's always phony when it comes to this crap. Anyway, I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.